Welcome, everyone, to the Whisper to Roar Show. I am your host, Kym Glass. I am so glad that you showed up to be with us today. I have an incredible guest joining us. You know, our show is helping people on their networking journey to have those resources, tools, and support along their journey as they're networking for their business. And so I have been featuring guests that I have met along my journey of networking. And so today I have a very special guest with me. Lynda Sunshine West is going to be joining us. And what's so special about this is I met her about 5 years ago networking at an event in Las Vegas. And through that connection, we've just stayed connected. We've collaborated together. And so I am just so passionate about connecting and finding out what is that you do and how can I help support you. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring Lynda on to join us. Lynda, I am so appreciative of you just continuing the conversation. And I remember back to the day where we were at this huge ballroom and we were meeting people. And, although our businesses may be a little bit different now from 5 years ago, we've made and continued that conversation. And along the way, we've been involved in doing some great collaboration to help other people in their business. And so I would love for you to share, we've been continuing our conversation about feeling invisible when you're out there networking. And so I was just wondering, could you share with our listeners today, maybe a little backstory of you feeling invisible sometime along your life journey? And can you bring us up to date on how did that feel when you were out there networking?
Yes, first, thanks, Kim, so much for having me back. I just love you. You're so amazing. And, I remembering back to that, 5 years ago when we did meet, at that time, I had just gone through 1 year of facing a fear every single day. And so by the time I met you, I had, gone through a lot of changes. And you mentioned that you had changed our businesses a little bit here and there. Mine has drastically changed since I first met you. And it's just a matter of, growing and learning more about me, what my values are, how I support people, how I best support them, what are my skills, techniques, and all these different things I'm learning about myself have made it so that I've shifted my business. I completely shifted it. But, that networking piece used to absolutely terrify me. I remember my very, very first networking event, and I didn't know what it was all about. I didn't even know what the word really meant. And I went to this networking event and I showed up and I went as far as I could to the back of the room so I wouldn't be near anybody. I didn't want to be seen. I did not want to be seen because I had these self-degrading concepts of who I am and what I'm all about, constantly beating myself up, own worst enemy and all that stuff. And so I went into the networking event. I sat down, I got on my phone, didn't talk to anybody. I didn't even look at anybody in the eyes. I was too scared. And so they went around the room and I was like, oh no, I have to introduce myself. I wonder if they can just skip over me. I wonder if they can just, that was all that was going through my head. I probably didn't hear a word anybody else said because I was so stressed about me saying my 30-second commercial. I wasn't ready for this. And so when it finally got around to me, I asked the person next to me, do you think that they can just skip me? And she's like, no, they go to everybody. And I was so stressed out. So I went ahead and said whatever I said. I have no idea what I said, but it was a scary moment. And then there was this one woman, and here's why I remember this. And this was a traumatic experience for me from the beginning all the way to the end. And there was this one woman who introduced herself, and I was listening like, wow, she's a perfect match for me. Because at that time I had a virtual assistant business. She's a perfect match for me. We can, we can join forces together, collaborate, do something together. I could send her clients and vice versa. And so when the event was all done, I walked over to her and I was so excited because I was, breaking through a fear of talking to somebody. And I walked over to her and I said, oh my gosh, I really loved your, what you had to say, during the 30-second intro. And let's talk because I see how you and I can help each other. And she looked at me with this really stern look on her face. And she said, why? And I was just mortified. And I said, well, because I think that we can do some really good work together. And she said, well, I'm not sure that it's going to be a fit for me. Because I had briefly told her what I do. I'm not sure it's going to be a fit for me. That was my introduction to networking. And it was so scary. But I ended up connecting with her later, a couple of years later. I saw her at many networking events. So we're talking about networking here, right? And I saw her at, this networking event and then that one. And then I'd go up on her tour, just like talk to her. What I didn't know is that you don't run up to somebody and say, hey, let's get married today. I love what you had to say. Let's get married today. And that was not what building a networking relationship was all about. I didn't know how to do it. I went in there cold and I just went about it the wrong way. Since then, I, of course, learned how to have conversations with people. Meeting you, Kym, has been one of those, conversations like I was scared to have at the beginning, but get to know the people, who they are, what they're all about, who they serve, get to know them first before I, introduce myself. So that's one of the ways I do it. But that was my indoctrination into networking. Absolutely terrified me, but I still kept coming back for more. And now, I mean, gosh, I love collaborating with people. I'm known as the queen of collaboration and, writing collaboration books. And it's been an interesting journey to say the least. And that invisibility piece, I wanted to be invisible. Then I had to make a decision that, you know what, I no longer want to be invisible. How am I going to become visible? And then from that point, turn that invisibility to that visibility to that invincibility. And that's where we are today. And that point, I show up as me. I have no cares or worries about what anybody thinks about me. And I just, if they like me, awesome. And if not, it's okay too.
I love what you shared about it's all about building the relationship, because as I'm coaching my clients, they're kind of the sell first and then the relationship. And getting that cart before the horse is so detrimental to your business, because it's kind of like that first interview that you have, like that first interview counts. So I so appreciate what you've shared about your journey. And it's truly about building the relationship first so that you get to know that person and you have a clearer understanding of what their business is. And then, as you said, how can you help and collaborate with them? So I'm curious about your journey. If you could share, like, what was the light bulb moment? So you talked about invisible, not wanting to be seen, but I've seen you in a different perspective, and I didn't know all that about you. I was just like, we kind of clicked, and I just want to learn what Lynda's doing and how I can best support her. But I'm curious if you could share with us, like, what was that light bulb moment of, where did you go from being scared to network, or maybe not even knowing what to say, to where you are today? Like, what was maybe the first step of that light bulb moment going off for you?
For the exact moment. And it's, I mentioned that in 2015, I faced a fear every day. So for a whole year, 365 fears I faced. I was age 51, so I was older. And one thing I love to say is that, you're never too old to start something new. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. So during that journey, one of the things was getting to know people, was learning how to have conversations with people, learning how to approach people. I was terrified to speak to a stranger. And, a lot of that came from, my childhood growing up in a very volatile, abusive, alcoholic household. And then, like many of us, I married somebody like my dad. My first marriage was to somebody like my dad, abusive. And, I was told that I was stupid and ignorant on a regular basis. And unfortunately, I believed that. So there was this one particular event. I attended a lot of events. I wanted to learn about, how do I sell? How do I market? How do I brand? I attended all these different workshops and seminars, and I was attending a marketing seminar, and there were about 12 women around the table. And the woman, putting on the seminar asked a question. And for the first time in my life, now I'm 51 years old at that time, For the first time in my life, I actually raised my hand to answer a question. I never did that before because I was always scared. What if they catch on to me? What if they see how stupid I am? What if I mumble my words? What if I make a mistake? All these what ifs were going through my brain about how people might judge me. So I raised my hand and I answered her question. And when I sat down, the two women sitting next to me said, "Oh my God, that was brilliant." They used that word brilliant. "Will you repeat it? I want to write it down." So I repeated whatever it was. And it was in that exact moment. It was that exact moment that I looked up into the chandeliers that were right above my head. And I said to myself, as loud as could be, like yelling in my head, "I have value. From this moment forward, I will share my voice every opportunity I get." Because I realized, and I had heard the sayings that you must share your story, you must share your value because there's somebody out there who needs to hear what you have to say. I didn't think that applied to me because I was stupid and ignorant. I didn't think it applied to me. But when those ladies said that was brilliant, I realized that I do have something, I do have value. And it's from this point forward that I need to share my voice. It's not going to resonate with everybody. I'm not going to touch everybody. The message might be for one person, but that one person was there in that room to hear what I had to share. And if I can change one person's life in a moment, then I am doing my work while I'm here on this planet.
I love your story, Lynda. And like I've mentioned before, just watching your journey unfold. And I often say this, sometimes we're in our own program, like that thing that we're looking for sometimes is how we're helping our clients. And that information exchange really helps us to develop ourselves and leads us on the path to where we can help and support and contribute to other people that we meet along the way. I'm wondering if you could share with us today. How are you helping people today in your business? I know that you have changed in what you were initially doing somewhat, but how are you inspiring people and giving them a voice in your business today?
Oh man, this is so big because when I had that epiphany moment, like I can feel tears coming to my eyes right now because it's so big. It is so big. When you discover your purpose, it's bigger than anything, you can even ever imagine. And that's what I have moved to is discovering my purpose. And because I was somewhat voiceless, I say somewhat because I still did say things. It's not like I was a mute. I still spoke and said things, but I always felt so like unworthy. And so that moment when I moved into that place of that, started to move into that place of invincibility and sharing my voice with the world, I realized that I had a value in encouraging, inspiring, and motivating other women to share their voice with the world too. And that's when I started embarking on this journey of trying to figure out, well, how am I going to help them do this? How am I going to serve them? And I always thought I was, always kind of like one of those people that thought I had to do it, like I had to do the work. And the reality is, I just need to bring the people together. I'm a community gatherer. I love bringing people together in community. And that's why I'm known as the Queen of Collaboration, because I bring people together to collaborate with each other. It doesn't mean that I have to be the lead of everything. I just need to do my part, which is bringing them together. And so it's taken several years for me to really hone in on what I do and how I do it and how I serve them and how I make money. But what I do is I help women to write and publish their stories. And the goal here is to help them to write and publish their stories so that I can help them to amplify their voice, to share their voice with the world. So I write collaboration books. This is one of the ways that I do that. In addition to, helping them, like I publish their books and then help them with their marketing. So there's other aspects to it. But those collaboration books, I love it. So Kym, you're in my first collaboration book called Momentum, 13 Lessons from Action Takers Who Change the World. And then the next collaboration book called The Fearless Entrepreneurs, Fear Less, Be More. And just bringing people together in that kind of collaboration and giving them that voice, getting them on stages, giving them that opportunity to share their story, because when you share your story, something changes within you. Something changes within you. And so it's such a beautiful, just a beautiful experience, and a beautiful way that I myself I get to serve my purpose by helping you to amplify your voice.
So powerful, so powerful. Thank you for that, Lynda. And I've been honored along this journey to interview some connections that you have introduced me to, and we've been able to collaborate, bring them on the show, and have them share, what was their story of how they first felt invisible, and then where are they on the other side of that to invincible, and how they're serving people. So I'm wondering, can you share with us about your newest project that just launched this week, and share with us what is that book, what is the premise of it, and then we'll go into how can we get our hands on this incredible book and these 20 plus authors.
Yes, definitely. The project, well, the book is called Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And it is stories, inspiring stories from women who have gone from that place of feeling invisible to feeling invincible. And it's really amazing because the launch date, was August 30th. But on August 24th, I looked at the standings just to see where we were, the rankings on Amazon. I wanted to see, are we anywhere close to being a bestseller? And we were close. We were at number 146, and you have to be 100 or better to be a best-selling book. We were at number 146. So I reached out to the ladies and I said, launch day is the 30th, but here we are 6 days early. Do you guys want to just go and go for it? And let's see what happens. And they all said yes. So in 3 hours, it became a best-selling book. And in under 8 hours, it became a #1 best-selling book in 5 different categories. And so that's one of the powers of bringing together a collective of people who have the same mission, the same purpose. And so we just came together and made it happen. So I was the captain of the ship, steering the ship, saying, go here, go there, turn left, turn right, stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight. Reminds me of my cheerleading days when I was little. But it's really awesome because when you know what you're doing and you're following an expert who knows what they're doing, the chances of success are much higher than the chances of failure because they know what they're doing. You follow their steps like a Sherpa going up a mountain, right? You follow every single step that Sherpa takes in order to get that success. And so it's just awesome because the stories that these women are sharing are changing lives. Yesterday, I was on a call with one of them, Pamela Gort. Somebody bought the book, read her story, reached out to her, and said, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story because you gave me courage to stop hiding, because Pamela had hidden for so many years. And she tells her story of coming out of that hiding, and it inspired that person to stop hiding. And there's countless stories like that from the ladies in the book that people are reaching out to them to say, oh my God, I didn't know this about your story. Thank you for sharing it. It gives me more insight. So again, it's through our stories and how we tell them that it really can make an impact on this planet. And that's one thing I love about these collaborations is, again, you write a short story, but you're a part of a large compilation, and you can make a greater impact that way because more people you'll get in more people's hands. More people will read your story because they bought the book because of somebody else's story, so it's really interesting how that works.
That's so impactful. And I often say, if I can get a book and get one great nugget of information that I can begin to implement, I think that is a winner book for me. But when you have a collaboration book of over 25 authors in there, it's like, oh my goodness, how many nuggets can you get out of this one book? And I love all of the teamwork, obviously the collaboration that we're so passionate about, and cheering everyone on, because when we're cheering them on, we're really giving, like you said, we're giving that voice a greater reach. And so I'm just so honored to have been on this side of the journey and to be interviewing so many incredible authors. So can you tell our listeners, how can we get our hands on this book, and give us the title and a little more detail about it?
Yeah, so the title is Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And you can get a copy of it at invincibleforevermore.com. And, we do have a website. It has, all the authors. So if you wanted to connect with, any of the other authors, there's a way to connect with them. I didn't want to have just a book out there where you put a book and people, contact them that way. I wanted to give them an opportunity to just click a link and go connect with them. And it's, the stories, they range from anywhere from, childhood abuse to adult abuse to running away at a young age. One was, incarcerated, and, because it was completely an accident, but it's her own doing. And she talks about this actually all the time. But, ended up killing somebody because she ended up becoming addicted to drugs. So the stories, they are just so compelling. And it's the way that they tell their stories. And it's funny because when you are bringing together 29 different women to share their story, you have no idea what's going to come out, how they're going to tell this story, and how it's going to impact the audience. And we do have an editor and proofreader and everything, but I must admit that very few edits were needed to be made because the stories were told in such a compelling way. Absolutely incredible. One of them is Shrinking While Growing, this by Paige Davidson. Now, Paige had gotten to over 300 pounds, and here she was, weighing all this weight. And she said, like, I wanted to be invisible, but it's impossible to be invisible when you're so big. People see you because you're big, but you want to be invisible. And then she ended up getting into intermittent fasting, and she lost a lot of weight, got down to 140 pounds. So it's like this journey that they're on, and she talks about that journey. And I also have, I would love for your listeners to also view on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Women Action Takers, which is the publishing company is Women Action Takers. And there are so many videos up there where what we do is we take the chapters and we break them down and we create little videos out of them, like, 2 to 3 minute videos. And it really, really encapsulates their story in a very short, moment of time. And I just, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this project because this was 6.5 years in the making for me to get here, and realize that I am so good at this. I am so good at this, and I absolutely love it. That when you have those two things come together, that's the beauty, I think, of really living your purpose. And this is what I'm destined to do. It just took me a while to get here and figure it out.
It's always the journey, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would attest to the fact, just interviewing some of these incredible authors. I remember being on a call a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I got choked up, and I was like, oh my goodness, how can I hurry up and get to the next person and get my face off of the screen? Because I got so emotional hearing their story and their journey. And then the whole, like, it felt like every emotion that you could feel in less than an hour. And then we ended up, just cracking up, and so many great nuggets of these just incredible women sharing their journey and their experience. And I remember that call so vividly because, we were talking about the book, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, like we came up with 3 or 4 other chapters, chapter names for new books. And it was like, oh my goodness, did somebody write that down? So it was kind of like a live on air brainstorming session. And I just so enjoyed that conversation. And again, truly some remarkable stories, and a reminder that it doesn't matter what you've been through. you can serve people as a result of that. And so that's what I'm so passionate about. When you can come from a place of being invisible to invincible. And again, your story matters and your voice matters, because it is that thing that you're so passionate about and serving other people. And so also joining us today is Sarah. So I was wondering, Sarah, can you unmute and share with us your journey, just a little quick insight about how you felt invisible, and where did that feeling start?
Hi, nice to finally see you, Tim, and hi, Linda. Let's see. I feel like I've been talking about and promoting this book and talking about this more than I have ever, and it's a good thing, I think. Uh, I realized that I wasn't aware of me being invisible. I realized it wasn't something I was aware of at all. I always lived a positive life and I always was a happy person. And it was like a motto of mine to be the positive Polly and just, don't let anything drag you down. So I remember for majority of my life. And so what I realized was I didn't allow any of these negative events even surface. So I like squished them down. And whenever I felt emotions that were a little bit sad, I was like, nope, I'm not sad. And then I just pretty much just ignored it. And so it was actually this book that had me really dig deep and really bring it to surface. And when I was actually thinking about the events, that's when it all kind of came to me. And so for me, the act of just taking that step to decide to write and to go public, I would say, was like a healing process that started. And the whole process, it was a journey for me. It's what made me realize that's what I have been doing, hiding, silencing, not talking about it. And then this whole book is what made it possible for me to just be me and be okay. Be okay with that.
I so appreciate you sharing your journey. And, Lynda and I were talking about, sharing your voice to help impact others. And I haven't interviewed someone that's in this book that shared it so specific as what you did, but it's so true. Sometimes when we start writing that story, we get those aha moments. And then I'll often say, we're peeling back the layer of the onion and getting to the root cause so that we can eventually release that. And so
Yes.
I so appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious, what was the light bulb moment? I know that you've shared you didn't realize that you didn't have the realization of you being invisible, but is there something else besides you writing your chapter that, or along this journey, was the light bulb moment for you that had you say, oh my goodness, I am this invincible person now?
Yes, so I went through a training that I mentioned in the book, and it was a training to be certified as an NLP coach. And the process of going through that training, we dig into the unconscious. And it was although it was a certification process to help others and coach others, it was working on me first. And when I was able to really practice the skills and the techniques that's required to release negative emotions and release negative trauma, things like that. At first, when I was in the training, I really told my partner, I was like, you know what? I have no sadness. I have no anger. And that's even until when I was in it, like I couldn't access it. And later I realized it was me not allowing myself to go there. And so even in the whole process of going through the training, I learned it in my head, but it really never reached me inside of my heart and my emotions deep inside, because I really didn't want to open the Pandora's box. And so it was after the training, after the whole personal development journey that I had been on, as I was thinking about if I'm going to share the general story about it or specifics about it with the book, that's when I realized, this is my opportunity to really let go. And so that was it for me. Like I sat there, I contemplated, I'm like, how much am I going to share? And I was afraid. I was really, really scared, because people are going to read it. People who know me are going to read it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is something I really have not shared. But that was the moment. I'm like, if it makes me uncomfortable, this is what I have to do. And
wow, that's so awesome. Good for you. I'm waiting on my book to arrive, and I can't wait to read your chapter. I'm curious, on the other side of this writing, what is your business, and do you have a website that our listeners can find you?
Yes, my website is sarahismycoach.com. It's a very simple website just to get in touch with me. And the best way is to just have a conversation with me and to figure out if there is something I can do to help. We may not be a good fit. Before all of this and the journey of NLP and certification, all of that, I have a business that I started with my sister 11 years ago. What I have is a education consultation business that kind of grew into a little more than just consulting the students on college advice. I have a setup where I have international students from abroad. I'm kind of like their home away from home. So I bring them in, I house them, I provide meals and transportation before COVID, and I take them to school, and we academically coach them for the years in community college for them to be able to transfer into a 4-year. And I've been doing that for the last 11 years. And we started with 2 students. We grew all the way up to maybe 40. And that was a little much. So we kind of scaled it down to about a dozen, or maybe I think our max will be about 18. So it's a very customized service for each individual student who are here internationally. And this is where I get to be that person where they can come to me and we can talk about nothing academic and everything personal. And I've seen breakthroughs in my students and in my parents, and it's been a life change for both of us. Yeah, and so that's where I mainly utilize this.
That is so awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. And to our listeners, it's Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, and her last name is J-U-N-G. So make sure that you connect with Sarah. She has an incredible story. I'm so honored to have you as my special guest today, along with Lynda, sharing your information and a little bit about your journey and how you gave wings to your voice and how you're inspiring other people. And then back to you, Lynda, how can our listeners connect with you? I know you mentioned your YouTube channel, but how can our listeners best connect with you about your other upcoming collaborations and your networking events?
Yes. Well, first I want to say, you heard Sarah's story and how being in the book, it's healing. And that's one thing that I'm finding for many, many of the women, and especially in this particular book, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And some of them were like, I don't know if I want to submit my chapter. Some waited till the very, very last day. One of them, I had to extend the date because I wanted her story, because I know how good it is, And so I extended the date. She didn't know I did it for her. I just told her I was going to extend the date. And I was waiting on that one last chapter, So we released a little bit later than I wanted, because these stories that are in here, like, they are perfect fit for this book, right? And as you heard, like Sarah mentioned, is that the healing process that has happened for many of them by sharing this particular story about going from invisible to invincible, that particular story has had many, many healing effects for the authors as well as the readers. So it's been phenomenal. But my name is Lynda Sunshine West. Sunshine is not my given name. I get asked that question all the time. It's a name that was given to me just within the last couple of years during my own personal development journey, where I've gone from that invisible person to that invincible person. And now I show up as me everywhere I go. I am the same Lynda, no matter where you see me. And I think that is like why people started calling me Sunshine. It was kind of random. But Lynda is Lynda, Lynda at womenactiontakers.com. That's the best way to get in touch with me. Just email me. But I'm on all of the socials as Lynda Sunshine West, and also Women Action Takers. I have the YouTube channel. You can find me everywhere. I even opened my TikTok account the other day because somebody was like, you got to be on TikTok for authors. And I said, okay, I'll check it. As you can tell, I'm really excited about it. But it's just interesting that it's like we got to be out there. We got to be out there for people to find us, and that's having my voice be heard is it's important for me to be out there sharing everywhere I possibly can. And I wanted to really quickly mention, Kym, because you mentioned that on one of the interviews that you had with the ladies, that you guys came up with different titles, and these titles come to me in the middle of the night. One night, it was about 3 a.m. That's usually the time they come. I woke up and I had this title in my head, and it was Women Action Takers with Healing Powers. And I laid in bed and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get up. It's 3 o'clock, but if I don't get up and write it down, then I'll forget. So then another title came while I was laying in bed, Women Action Takers. I can't remember the exact one, but I have a whole bunch of titles. It was Women Action Takers Serving Their Purpose. That was the second one. And then here I was in bed and I was like, I just might as well get up and write them down. So I got up, got out a piece of paper and a pen, and I wrote down those two titles, and then 30 other titles just started flowing. It's been incredible. So these are my next titles are Women Action Takers, who we're going to do one together. Kym and I, we're going to do Women Action Takers with Unshakable Courage.
Yes.
So one thing I'm doing is I'm going to co-brand with other people. They have a brand. It fits with Women Action Takers. Let's co-brand and let's bring other women in to share their story in these books, and let's make it happen.
Yeah, so our listeners, make sure that you connect with Lynda and Sarah. I so appreciate both of you being with us today, sharing how you were able to move from invisible to invincible, and truly sharing your voice to help other people. And for our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Kym Glass. It's Kym with a Y. I spell it a little bit like Lynda's. We love the Y. So it's kymglass.com. And just so appreciate you showing up, listening to these incredible stories of our special guests. And tune in next time. We enjoyed learning about you. What is your business? How can we get your voice out there and give you the resources, tools, and support to continue on your journey? Thank you again for being with us. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Whisper to Roar Show.